Hey everyone, welcome to Cyber Office Hour. The shelter is the shelter. It's an emotional meat grinder. It was a rough day yesterday for everybody there. So spread the word to everybody you know. For the love of God, do some work with your dogs. Do some goddamn work with your dogs, even just the basic amount of stuff. And when I say basics, I'm talking about life skills. I can't even amount the people that call me with big problems and their training history says, we've done the basics. Sit, shake, and roll over. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm so passionate about that. And I know that comes across a lot of times. I know I've heard people say, like, oh, Ian hates tricks. And it isn't that I hate tricks. Tricks are fun. Tricks are awesome. All of my dogs knew some tricks that were really entertaining. Darwin had that whole put up your dukes thing where he'd come up like this, stand on his back legs. And Wednesday and Dexter and Bobo were all pro shakers and spin and roll over and all that kind of fun stuff. I don't hate tricks. Tricks are not basics, right? You don't go to school. We don't send kids to school to learn how to make a quarter disappear or to pull a rabbit out of a hat or to do impressions. We send kids to school so that they learn how to read and write and say please and thank you and write a check and all the life skills. The point I'm trying to make is so many people surrender dogs for stuff that is predictable, preventable, and easy to fix. Easy to fix. Like the amount of people that get a puppy and then surrender the puppy back to the shelter because of potty training problems. I'm like, come on. This is easy stuff. They're living things. Have a little bit of care. They're not kitchen appliances or living room furniture, right? If you were that neglectful with your kids would be taken away from you because you're a bad parent. I'm not advocating for harsher sentences for people that don't take care of their animals, because that's carceral thinking, and I'm very much against that. I'm a totally ACAB kind of guy. As a society, though, we have to start modifying our culture to put social pressure on these people to be responsible and stop being so cavalier, ignorant about dogs, for God's sakes. Like, I don't expect everybody to be experts like me or my colleagues, I'm just like, I feel like some of the most basic pieces that we have conversations about on COH that you guys are like, yeah, no, and we have these good, cool, nuanced conversations about, but some of the things I have to explain to people and they're like, what? Really? I had no idea. Like, if this was 1975 or 1985, or you know what, even 1995, I'll be like, okay, it's hard to find information. But we're in the 2020s, halfway through the 2020s, a whole decade leading up to 2030. We all carry the computing power of an entire warehouse full of computers in the 70s, connected to the internet. This information is free. It's free. It's free. It's free. Just do the work. Just do it. Sorry. I did not expect that to go off the rails. I need to work on my emotional regulation where animals are concerned. Oh my God. Laura realized this morning, haven't done training lately. Took some dog food, practiced recall, auto sit, stay, easy to do on a walk. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Laura, you're totally on it. That's exactly right. Like, you just, hey, time for some scheduled maintenance, and you can you work it into what you're already doing. Yes, thank you. Beautiful. That's it. That's It's easy to do. Yeah, you're exactly right. Jenny says training games are great fun, so why wouldn't you do them every day? It's a way to express our relationship with our dogs, so I don't get how people can't do it. Well, and I think people just relegate it to like it's something they have to do, like it's part of the care and feeding, like, oh, I gotta take him out potty, and oh, I gotta feed him, and oh, I gotta take him for a walk, and oh, I gotta take him to play fetch in the park, and then I feel like some other people like they go so far with that they make it part of their identity, that like people that jog with their dog, I'm like, jogging is kind of your thing. And, your dog might like it because they're spending time with you, but, we don't forget the other stuff. Dogs like to just snoop at a snail's pace. That's important to them too. You got to do the slow thinking stuff too. Otherwise, you're creating a top tier athlete who also doesn't get to do the other things that they want to do. Megan, the internet is in dire need of a quiz titled, "Do you want a pet or a plant?" Yes, 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 yes. That made me think of something, though. The last few weeks, I've been thinking about something somebody said. We were talking about the welfare of dogs and cats and things that we have to do when we have dogs as dog owners and this and that. And then she said something like, well, cats too, but I mean, cats basically are like a house plant. And I remember at the time thinking, I'm like, I feel like that's kind of dismissive, right? Um, and so it really got me thinking. I've been thinking about the cats that I've met when I go to people's houses, either as a professional or people that I've gone to as for a personal thing, like friends of mine, family members, and the cats they have, and thinking about my cats that I've had, and I'm like, people on the internet, this is just my 2 cents. You guys don't have to agree with me, of course. You don't ever have to agree with me on anything. I feel like there's this weird kind of opinion on the internet about how, like, well, the dog, they really need your attention. The cat, they don't care, they're totally independent and all this kind of stuff. And I really don't think that's necessarily true. I just think that they present those things differently. I do believe cats are a bit more independent. They're less needy of attention and companionship that owners are, but I don't think we should say that cats don't thrive on those things. And I feel like this might be my simpatico brain going, that I feel like that this is going to sound kind of hippy dippy here for a second. It kind of goes back to the whole thing, like, you manifest what the universe gives you. What you put out into the universe is what you get back. If you put out a lot of negativity into the universe, you get negativity back. If you put out a lot of indifference to the universe, you get indifference back. And so when I've been to people's houses and they talk about their cats, their cats really kind of don't have a lot of that personality. They have that independence. They just are kind of like a house plant. I really feel like I'm starting to believe in my heart of hearts, it's because they're treated like house plants. When I see people that give their cats a lot of attention and affection in the ways that the cats want. Cats, of course, like affection and attention differently than dogs do. And that's perfectly reasonable. Those cats become very loving and affectionate themselves, and they seek out attention. And I think about my cats, specifically. I mean, I've had other cats in my life, but Gomez and now Peaches, I treat them like I do my dogs. I go out of my way to give them attention. I talk to them throughout the day like they're listening to me, like I'm soliciting their opinion on things. I involve them in my life. And both Gomez and Peaches have been and are super affectionate and sweet and just this blossoming, beautiful personality. They're different. Gomez and Peaches are different for sure, but they're every bit as funny and comical and opinionated on things as my dogs have been. And the more I think about this, the more I pontificate about this, I look back on, I start kind of in my head doing a non-scientific study, like houses I've been to where the cats are indifferent. The people are indifferent to their cats. Houses I've been to where the cats have a lot of personality and are social and want to hang out. That's how the people treat them. And I feel like it's a lot the same with dogs and kids. And I feel like if you guys kind of think about that a little bit, think about the dogs and kids and even cats that that have these wonderful personalities, that are pro-social and are affectionate and all those things. I'll bet you 9 out of 10 times it's because that's how they're being treated. And pets that are indifferent, not very social, independent, that's probably what they've been taught. Like, well, I have to be independent because nobody really cares what I do. I don't know. That's my working hypothesis. I don't have any scientific data to back that up other than my own anecdotal experience. I'd be curious to see what you guys think of that. I'm not saying that cats act like dogs. Peaches she's more independent than my dogs have been. She's more kind of like, I like to do my own thing a lot of the time, but she talks all the time. She comes to check in with us wherever we're at. She follows us around. If we're sitting on the couch, she comes and walks all over us and makes biscuits and wants to be. And then, she sits close to us all the time. And we go out of our way to talk to her, like I said. And if we're walking through the house doing something, we'll stop, get on the floor, pet her a little bit and talk to her and talk sweet to her and toss her a few little treats and stuff here and there. And, welcome her. If we're in doing something, she jumps up and goes, we'll go, well, hello there, young lady, and acknowledge her and talk to her. And I've seen people do that, they're like, they'll be in somewhere talking to me, and their cat will jump up and like, I'll be the only one. I'll be like, well, hey, kitty, what's the cat's name, and then the cat's tail comes up and they come walking over and they'll be like, oh my God, somebody's talking to me. This is cool. So I don't know. Like I said, it's completely anecdotal. Laura said, well, my cats didn't need to go for walks. They wanted more attention than my dogs. Since I'm allergic to them, unable to give them all the attention they want. So no more cats. My cats spent more time with me than my dogs. Yeah. And Laura, you're a really social, affable person. You have a lot of personality yourself. I know that you spend a lot of time and care with your dogs and the ones that visit your grand puppies and all your friends' dogs and things like that. And I don't know, man. Your vibe attracts your tribe. That's what I've always said. Dylan says it's the misconception that independence equals indifference in the pet cat world. They're seen as the easy pet. Yeah, really they are. They're seen as really easy, which means that people that want an easy pet, they don't put the personal time into it. I mean, I get a dog and a cat because I want that dimension of companionship in my life. And just like my personal relationships with humans, I know that I have to invest something in those. Relationships are not maintenance-free setups. They require maintenance on both sides of that. Whether we're talking about, friend to friend or, husband to wife or significant other to significant other, right? Or parent to child, pet parent to companion pet, whatever those are, those relationships, they're not maintenance free. They require input from both sides. Janet said cats on YouTube are using speech buttons. My sister taught her Russian blue mix to sit, down, come, fetch, and he understood dozens of words and often copied words. She put a hole in the end of a cardboard box in front of the closed sliding glass door so that he had a hunting blind. Oh, that's hunting blind. That's rad. Oh, that's really cool. That's cool. That's a good idea. Very enriching, I'm sure. You know what? We've been talking about, we have these birds that hang out by our air conditioning units and the two front windows here. And of course, Peaches is always creeping around those things. And we've talked about taking out one of the units because we don't really use either of them and putting in one of those plexiglass kind of cat things that stick out, that protrude, so she could just kind of go and lounge out there and, put a little blankie in there. She could go out and look at the world and watch the birds and stuff. Megan says when they're saying cats don't need, what they mean is they won't die without. That's a good point. That's a good point. In my opinion, the fundamental misunderstanding, keeping a pet alive doesn't mean that they have everything they need to have a good life. The bar is so low. That is true. That is true. Well said. Very well said. Megan says a good question to ask when you question someone's approach to animal handling and training is, if you woke up tomorrow and they were bigger than you, how would you change how you interact with them? Sometimes you can tell a lot. You can tell when a person has worked with large animals, horses, lions, emus, whatever, before, because the relationship with their pets reflects respect for the animal's agency. I really agree with that, and that's one of the reasons that I've really taken a lot of cues, the way that I interact with animals, from zookeepers. Zookeepers do that stuff all the time. You have to have that level of agency and respect with those big animals, because if you don't, it's the mistakes can be lethal, right? And you have to build that, especially like for the cooperative care stuff. If you're like, well, I got to vaccinate the elephants, or I got to clean the rhino's feet, or I have to vaccinate this tiger, like, if you don't have that trust and a sense of respect and agency established there, like, good friggin' luck. And if you don't do that right, you could get killed. So I think you're absolutely right about that. So when I'm working with dogs, I always try to, that's one of the reasons I talk to them so much, is I'm like announcing, especially when I get a dog in my studio. Well, just what was that, last week? I had that dog came in, and that guy he's got a couple bites on record. They're going through some legal stuff right now because of it, fighting a dangerous dog designation. They're working with the only trainer in their area. This is all about prong collars and e-collars and punishing them for growling and all that jazz. So of course the dog has gone from bad to worse. He's a basket case now. But she had him on his leash and his muzzle on one end, and then every time that I was going to move, I talked to him. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to get up now," and he'd look at me when he wasn't looking at me, and I'm like, "I'm going to get up now," and of course I could tell I started moving. He was like, But I picked that up from zookeepers, like, "Hey, I'm going to be moving now, and I'm going to be moving over there." You announce those things. You let the animal know where you're going. You call attention to some of those things. It's really important stuff. But with any animal, I just think it's a sign of respect, or person. I just think it's a sign of respect, and give him that agency. And if I started to move like that, and he was like, "I don't want you to do that," then I go, "Okay, we're having a conversation. I appreciate you letting me know that that's too stressful for you." But I actually handled it really well, I have to say. I was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to get up. I'm going to walk close to that column over there." And he tracked me the whole way. And then, of course, once I got over there, I started doing treat retreat with him with some liver treats. And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, that worked out better than I thought it was going to." And, we could go from there. And to the mom's credit, I could tell that she wasn't sure. She felt uncomfortable about some of these things, but really couldn't articulate why she felt uncomfortable about these things. And also, she was, like I said, she was in a training and behavior desert. So this is the only professional that she has to work with. And she's like, "That's what they told me to do. They know more than I do about these things. I feel like I'm out of my depth, But like, you're using the prong collars to force him to sit all the time. And when she first walked in, he's looking at her, he's like, I don't know where the hell I am or who this guy is, what I'm supposed to do. And then she's just like, she didn't even say sit. She just, what? Like that. And he's like, okay, I sat. All right. And I was like, you don't have to do that. She's like, I don't. Oh, okay. And I'm like, it's fine. And then she was like, what if he barks? I'm like, well, so what if he barks? And she was like, well, the trainer told me that if he whines, it's okay. But that if he growls or barks, that I should correct him. And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He has a voice here. I appreciate when he tells me that he's uncomfortable with things or where he's at with things. It's important for us and he needs that. And then he was like, when she had him in the studio, he was kind of nervous. He wanted to explore. He couldn't explore, because she kept him super close. And I understand she's fearful of, well, what if he does this or what if he does that? And of course, that trainer didn't help her fears at all. And then he was getting up on the chair and she kept pushing him down. He was getting up on the chair because he wanted to sit next to her. And then he turned around and he'd look out the window. And I was like, it's okay. I don't mind if he's up on the chair. It's perfectly fine. It's going to help him feel a little bit more comfortable to sit next to you and look out the window. And then I was like, and you know what else? Just, you have the leash and just tether it to the wall. So I got dog hook, and she just dropped the handle over it. So he's next to her. He has a little bit more freedom to move. And I was like, take the muzzle off. Take the muzzle off. Let him sit in the chair. She took the muzzle off. She's like, are you sure? Oh, okay. If you say so. Took the muzzle off. He got up on the chair. Instantly, I could see in his body just down regulation, just drop down a couple of steps, like, okay, all right. And I'm like, there we go. Why? That would be like if you took a kid to a haunted house. If you took like an 8-year-old to a haunted house, their first haunted house, and some guy jumped out of a corner with a chainsaw and they're like, ah! And you started punishing them there for being scared. Like, can you imagine the freaking core memory trauma you would create? Like, this makes me so mad. Megan says, good friends of mine used to correct their lab's excited humping with angry yelling until they saw that she responded to me redirecting in a friendly tone. No, thank you, or off, please, thank you. You could tell they had no idea that you could respond pleasantly to unwanted behavior. They'd never seen it before. So honestly, and this is, I feel like, yes, with dogs, for sure, that you can say like, hey, we don't have to, what are you yelling for? Like, just ask nicely, right? Yeah, try and use a prong on a lion. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly right. All those balance trainers that talk about like, oh, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, try that on a freaking tiger. Go for it. Let me know how it goes. Yeah, you do it on dogs because you can, and you can get away with it. Now, here's the sick thing, though. You can see that it's been done in old school circuses, bears, lions, elephants. And it was done to such a degree. That's where we get the term breaking them means, because when you break an animal, it means that they've acquired a lot of learned helplessness. They're like, this is inescapable. The only way to get through it is compliance. And you can see those poor guys, they're like, oh, the bear's going to get up and on this ball and he's going to juggle this freaking gymnast or whatever the hell they got him doing. And that bear's dead behind the eyes. He's just like, would someone just please shoot me? Like, this is a miserable existence. So it can be done, but it's awful. I think we all agree watching the circus with that kind of stuff. It's awful. It's awful. And then it's suddenly somehow magically different with dogs. Dylan said zoos are light years ahead in co-op care. They really are. They really are. Absolutely. Yep. They're leading the charge. That's one of the reasons I think I would like to do some of my work with zookeepers. And I recognize stuff they're doing, they're clicker training the animals so they can do cooperative care stuff. They're doing really cool enrichment projects for them. And it's fun to see the different kinds of enrichment, like, oh, well, the Komodo dragon does this for enrichment. And then, the tiger gets this for enrichment, and the orangutans get this for enrichment, and it's so radically different, but it's, tailored for their species. I was at a zoo just walking through, and they, on one of the wall plaques and one of the primates, I can't remember what the primate was. It was a little uncommon primate, but not as big as an orangutan, but bigger. It was, I'd say teenager sized. And on the plaque, they were talking about the enrichment they do for them, and they listed a few of the things. And one of that particular primate's favorite enrichment activities was that big black Kong that they would put stuff into. And they, of course, they didn't work on it the same way a dog did, but they liked picking it up and manipulating it and getting the stuff out of it and working through it. Some of you guys that are really hands-on with dogs, I'm sure there's a couple I'm forgetting right now, and I don't mean to leave you out, but you're like me. You think like a process engineer, and it's not just like you pull inspiration for your tactics and your techniques from a whole bunch of different disciplines and then synthesize this new kind of whole. And I think that's fascinating. Well, listen, guys, I think this has been a good show. I hope you haven't minded my ranting. I did not intend to rant.